fairly and without prejudice or bias or sympathy for anyone, then you will arrive at a fair and a just verdict. Okay, thank you, jurors. It's now time for opening statements, so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Beatty.
Thank you, Your Honor. Kurt, I am sorry, brother, but she is a vindictive devil. I am really sorry, brother, but she manipulated us all. Love you, Harry. That's the text message that Kurt Pfannenstiel received when he woke up in the early morning hours of Friday, May 15th, 2020. Immediately distressed, Kurt contacted another friend of Katie and Harry, the defendant goes by Harry, as well as Ingolf, and shared the text message with her. Vanessa Pettigrew was also concerned, so she drove to Katie's home at 29 Valley Road in Dover to look for Katie. She called, she texted, no Katie. Vanessa knew that there was a court order that prohibited Dr. Tuerk from living at 29 Valley Road, and so then he was staying in a hotel. So she found the hotel in Dedham, and she drove there. She found the two cars that the defendant and Katie shared parked outside. No Katie. She contacted family. She contacted friends. And I expect you will hear that Stephen Rocca, who is Katie's ex-husband and the father of her 3 children, contacted the hotel. The hotel called the Dedham police and asked them to do a well-being check. And when the Dedham police responded to the hotel, no Katie, but they found the defendant totally unresponsive, passed out in his bed. He had scratches on his body. There was knives, there was a liquor bottle, and he was transported to Norwood Hospital, where he remained unresponsive for many hours. So family and friends continued to search. Law enforcement searched in Dedham, Dover, Medfield. Her phone was pinged, and it covered a wide area. So law enforcement was searching in the woods with dogs. No Katie. There was concern that she could be injured in those woods. All day Friday, no Katie. On Saturday, the police learned that Dr. Tuerk had woken up, and they wanted to speak with him. You will hear from personnel at Norwood Hospital and from the police about the procedures that needed to be followed, in part because of COVID, because this was during the height of the pandemic, and things were more complicated. So it wasn't until after 5 o'clock on Saturday that the police were able to meet with Dr. Tuerk. And I expect that you will hear about the meeting that they had. That interview was recorded. It was an audio recording. I want to tell you that it is a little bit challenging to hear because in part everyone was wearing masks. But we will have a transcript that will help you, and you will be able to listen to the interview. It's about 3 hours. And I expect that you will hear that Trooper Jeffrey Kutkowski and Detective Deborah Gonski from the Dedham Police met with Dr. Tuerk in the family waiting room at Norwood Hospital. That he agreed to speak with them, he was provided with his Miranda warnings. The interview was hours, but the police were polite, they were respectful, there was no yelling, and they gave him plenty of time to talk. And in the beginning of that interview, The defendant said he didn't know what happened. He didn't know where Katie was. And the police said, we're concerned, we need to find her. We think she might be in the woods. What can you tell us? And eventually, as they talked more, he told them about what happened, about what he did, about the circumstances at 29 Valley Road. He explained that he and Katie had been having some marital problems and they had separated. He told the police that she needlessly got a restraining order that meant that he had to leave 29 Valley Road. And so he bounced around and he was having a hard time finding a place to stay, that he ended up in Florida. But that he and Katie had agreed to reconcile. He came back from Florida and they were going to work things out. And it was supposed to be a clean slate, nothing from the past. And on Thursday, they had a nice day at 29 Valley Road. They had a nice dinner. All three kids were home. They played a game. And then after dinner, after some drinking, there was an argument. And Katie wouldn't let it go. She wouldn't let the past go, like she had agreed. And so he put his hands around her neck. And just as the police were going to ask what happened after he put his hands around her neck, Dr. Tuerk asked for a break. And I expect you will hear that Trooper Krakowski will say, yep, that's not a problem. We can do that. And so they took almost a 45-minute break. And when Dr. Tuerk came back, it was different. His tone was different, more resolute, and he almost immediately provided a lot of information. Something else had changed. Detective Gonski had left the room, and Detective Richard Porro was in the room. And Dr. Tuerk told the two male police officers that he strangled his wife, that he knew he killed her, that he panicked after he knew she was dead, and he carried her body out of the house. And the police said, we need to know where she is. We can't leave her out there. And so he told the police directions for how to find her. In the course of this trial, you will hear a lot of information and evidence about the investigation that was conducted before Dr. Tuerk told the police that he strangled his wife and after. You will hear from the police who followed the directions, who went to the pond at 1 Francis Street in the night, in the dark, and who recovered Katie McLean's body from that swampy water, dressed only in leggings, covered in dirt and debris. You will hear about her shirt recovered on a branch outside the pond. You will hear about 2 large rocks recovered from inside her pants. You will have a chance to see how heavy they are. The rocks that were meant to hide her, to cover up what he had done. And in the course of this trial, you will hear from the medical examiner who examined Katie McLean's body, who conducted an autopsy, and about her findings of strangulation, of head injury, and from a DNA analyst about the DNA that was found under Katie's fingernails. And in the course of this trial, you will also hear evidence about the defendant's anger towards Katie McLean. Evidence of anger that will prove that he is guilty of first-degree murder. And at the end of this trial, we will return and we will ask you to consider all of the evidence and the law and find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beatty. Mr. Reddington?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.